This is a story about a dream. In this dream, Zhuangzi changes into a butterfly. When he wakes up, the dream is still on his mind. But he is confused about some of the details. Did he become a butterfly? Or did a butterfly become him? It's hard to say. In the dream, it seemed as if they were one and the same. Over the past 2,300 years, this dream has haunted the minds of the Chinese literati. They realize the true essence of life and freedom of the soul is connected to the sublime splendor of the universe. They were in pursuit of the butterfly hidden in their soul. In early spring, Mount Zhongnan is always enveloped in mist. Living in the mountains gave the early Taoists a keen sense of their relationship with the natural world and their place in the universe. They believed that humankind was inextricably related to the universe as a whole. It was this insight that lay at the heart of their aesthetic philosophy and inspired their poetry. This, after all, was Laozi's way.
老师，自然乃万物之本，道乃自然所生，而人是否应该遵循这个不变的规律？
正是，人乃天地所生，人所要做的，就是合于道，将生命的本真不断地向道 归根复命，而天之大道就是有与无的循环往复，在是与不是之间徘徊交替。
Laozi held that nature provided the eternal law of the world and rules for integration of all things. Pursuing perfect integration into nature is the highest goal of Taoists. And through this process, Taoist aesthetics emerged.
有无相生，知白首黑，大音希声，大象无形。
Laozi didn't explain the essence of beauty, as he was preoccupied with the Tao. Some 300 years after his death, an uninhibited middle-aged man showed the great beauty of Taoism to the world. His view about aesthetics is tinged with Taoism. He was the man who dreamed of a butterfly. His name was Zhuangzi, later known as Zhuangzi. Zhuangzi was born during the Warring States period. He was a representative of the Taoist school following Laozi. Once he worked as a minor official of the state of Song. He disdained power and fame, and instead pursued spiritual freedom. Zhuangzi held that beauty existed in both heaven and on earth, but there are no words to describe it. For artistic creation, artists need to concentrate on things that link heaven and earth. The story about Zhuangzi's dream of a butterfly described the link between the two. Only when one forgets oneself and the living object at the same time can they find the true essence of beauty. In the dreamlike journey of life, Zhuangzi always avoided earthly troubles to feel the beauty of nature. This made him the spiritual model for Chinese literati pursuing spiritual freedom. Taoist aesthetics greatly influenced Chinese artists hundreds of years after Zhuangzi's death. However, it remained attached to Confucianism and never became a system of its own. Around the end of the 3rd century, the Confucian ethical code collapsed, and Taoist aesthetics became the path for people of later generations. This fiddle has a small head, but produces a big sound. It was an evolutionary advancement of the Jiqin fiddle. The Jiqin fiddle was given the name Jiqin in honor of the great musician Ji Kong. Ji Kong was a noted man of letters and a musician of the Kingdom of Wei during the Three Kingdoms period. He was famous for his broad-minded and unconstrained personality. He used Laozi and Zhuangzi as examples of how to live one's life. He was a true practitioner of Taoism. That said, Ji Kong lived in a turbulent period of time. When the Sima family and the Chao family were locked in a struggle for state power, the imperial administration was left in chaos. It was impossible for the literati to display their talent, so they turned to Laozi and Zhuangzi for spiritual sustenance. They would ponder ideas while drinking wine or sipping tea to alleviate a depressed mood. They were known as the 7 sages of the bamboo grove. Ji Kong led the 7 sages of the bamboo grove. He was elegant and had no interest in fame and wealth. He did everything in accordance with the spirit of Taoism. He opposed artificial formalities and stressed pursuit of what Taoism stood for, such as a free life and ample spiritual sustenance. However, no one knew Ji Chong was a man who felt depressed and lonely. In the face of social turmoil, he chose to visit places of natural beauty, which was a way for many Taoists to stay away from mundane affairs and social intrigue. Toward the end of the Three Kingdoms period, the guqin, a seven-stringed plucked instrument, had been much favored by Taoists. Guqin performances reached a peak in artistic style and graceful aesthetic beauty during this era. Jikong created melodies evoking a Taoist vision, integrating the intrapersonal world and nature. In just a few years, Jikong composed a number of guqin works, such as the Four Melodies of Jikong, which stressed nature's independence from human values. These melodies were much loved by the people.
凡月，天地之和，阴阳之调也。
The gracefulness of Jikong's musical melodies coincided with Zhuangzi's Taoist view on aesthetics. When one worked hard on the harmonious coexistence between humankind and nature, limits between time and space seemed to fall away. How Jikong gained musical inspiration from nature is still unknown to us. What we do know is that musical creativity didn't translate into worldly success. Taoist philosophy nurtured Jikong's achievements in art. He supported the Taoist political view of rebuking the king as well as Confucius. He advocated overriding Confucianism. His thoughts ran counter to the traditional deference to Confucianism in governments. In 262, Jikong was accused of refuting the traditional rituals and was put to death by the Sima family, which had won their power struggle with the Zhao family. He was a victim of the dirty politics he himself despised. When he was brought to the lofty execution platform, Jikong played the piece Guangling Verse. People present on the occasion didn't hear it as music played by one who was about to be beheaded. Instead, they found a mind broad enough to integrate music with life and humankind with nature. Guangling Verse is considered a masterpiece that has immortalized Jikong's philosophical leanings. About 100 years after Jikong's death, the Western Jin dynasty, founded by the Sima family, collapsed amid wars. The empire, controlled by Han rulers, retreated to the southern bank of the Yangtze River, while North China fell into the hands of barbarian tribes. The devastating wars forced the literati and officials in the north to flee across the Yangtze River. Cruel reality made them believe the road charted by Laozi and Zhuangzi, what was once stifled by the Sima rulers, backfired to become the order of the day. Taoist aesthetics became the sole criterion to judge beauty at that time. According to Laozi, beauty lies in experience, perception, and harmony between humankind and nature. Scholars strongly influenced by Taoism all tried hard to find inspirations from nature for their artistic creation. Every morning, there were people who gathered in front of the lecturing platform in Loguan Taoist Temple to practice calligraphy. However, they didn't use ink and paper. What they used was water from the stream, a large brush, and the stone slabs under their feet. Traditionally, people communicated with each other by writing letters. Writing is indeed a spiritual way for two parties to communicate. Wang Sijie took this concept to a very high level and was later dubbed the Sage of Calligraphy. Wang Sijie was born into a notable family during the Eastern Jin dynasty. He received a very good education. Like other men of letters who believed in Taoism, Wang Sijie's father and grandfather were also believers. This exerted a heavy influence on Wang's calligraphy. Exposed to Taoist aesthetics, Wang Sijie developed his own calligraphy, which was natural and unrestrained. The metaphor of frightened swans and swimming dragon from Zhao Zhe's Ode to the Goddess of the Low River was often used to extol Wang Sijie's calligraphy. Wang Sijie was a lucky genius. He had a respectable family background and was extraordinarily talented and constantly exposed to the law of the Tao. Speaking about his own calligraphy, he made the following remarks.
夫书者，玄妙之技也。自非达人君子，不可得而述之。
The mysterious skill that Wang referred to was the mystery of mysteries as spoken of by Laozi. In 353, the 9th year of the Yonghe period of the Eastern Jin dynasty, Wang Sijie quit his position of governor of Guiji and joined his friends for a party held in Shaoxing. The party took place in the Orchid Pavilion. After several cups of wine, Wang Sijie was a bit tipsy. Observing the endlessly flowing stream, he had an epiphany about the true essence of nature. Throwing away earthly annoyances and the burden of fame, he wrote the masterpiece, Preface to the Poems Composed at the Orchid Pavilion. His style of running script set an example for scholars to emulate in pursuing beauty in calligraphy. This is part of Wang Sijie's preface to the poems composed at the Orchid Pavilion. It is held as the best example of running script in the world. It is such an impressive work that calligraphers of later generations all learned to master it. His vigorous yet graceful strokes are clear and elegant. Even repeated characters are as different from each other as can be. Preface to the poems composed at the Orchid Pavilion is believed to be valuable in terms of the style instead of the written characters themselves. His calligraphy embodies the highest level of Taoist theory that humankind is an integral part of nature. In this sense, a human is the confluence of heaven and earth. It's a world where people commune with nature and the spiritual world. In such a place, people are free from worries and dance with unburdened hearts. What they need to do is to forget titles, academic honors, material wealth, the secular world, and even the passage of time, and let themselves wander freely in nature to sense its eternal beauty.